What is your opinion on exploring the possibility of regionalizing certain services in town with one or more neighboring towns as a possible cost-saving measure? And I'll give you examples, which I'm sure you're thinking about: police, fire, dispatch, highway departments, veterans agent, building inspector, Concom agent, town planner, those type of things. We see it being done in other areas. I know Foxborough is looking into doing it with some neighboring towns. Do you think Rehoboth could benefit by that, or do you think we're giving up autonomy?
Well, you certainly would be giving up autonomy no matter what the decision is, but right. And that's the short side of it. What the benefit would be is you'd have to run the numbers on it. We took a cursory look at that several years ago and had to do with I believe it was highway, and we determined it was with Seekonk. We had some preliminary discussions, and they fell to the side. Could they be taken up again? Certainly. Dispatch, that's a possibility. Probably one of your more real possibilities, with the most savings that could be anticipated would be in something like that to begin with. There are actually communities in this state that have regionalized police departments, and I believe that Belchertown does. So yeah, it's something that we could look at. Probably should look at some point in time.
10 seconds.
I'm done.
Okay. Can I give him one more question before we switch to planning board? Okay. He's doing such a great job. I don't want to bore the planning board members. We are going to get back to
seconds.
Do I get a clock? Yeah. Do you? This is the good one. I read this one in the paper, and I live up in the Attleboro Sun Chronicle area, so I read that every day. Do you think it's reasonable for our COA director in this town to be underpaid in relation to her peers in neighboring towns?
Do I think it is?
Do you think it's fair and reasonable for our COA director to be underpaid in relation to her peers in abutting towns?
Okay, by asking me that question, you are making the assumption that I know that she is underpaid, which I do not. I have not been part of that study. I have no idea what that would be. I would be willing to, and if I was to take a fresh look at this, I would look at, okay, we can see what other communities are paying, and balanced by their ability to pay, balanced by what services are they putting forth. I'm not 100% up. It's been 3 years since I've really taken, other than I know more about this than what I read in the paper too. I don't have that inside track. Yep. So, they can probably tell you more than I can about that, but if I would approach this and take a look, and this is...
10 seconds.
He asked me more than a 10-second question.
Go ahead.
Continue?
Yep, sure.
Okay.
Continue.
Then, I would need to take a look at the services that she's providing, the facilities that she's managing, the projects that she's managing, the programs that she's managing, and then take a look at that, and then we can take a look at what a similar situation would be.
Thank you, Skip.
Good job. No, I'm going to move on.
Oh.
I'm going to give you a little rest. Actually, before I pose a question to the planning board, I'd like to validate Mr. Brooks for his contributions to the EDC, Economic Development Committee. Thank you so much. All right. I also believe that our senior citizens are a very important part of our community. What are your recommendations for appropriate senior housing, Mr. Enos?
I think as a planning board, we wouldn't really have any input on that unless they're building a new building. So if it's an existing building that's refabbed and they're just using the same footprint and nothing's happening, we wouldn't have any input really on that. As a board, again, as a personal citizen, I would expect a cost-benefit analysis to be completed to find out if the overriding cost is beneficial to serve the seniors, and depending upon the outcome of that, if it's going, I would vote yes or no.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks?
I concur with Tom. I do think we need to be open to new ideas for senior housing, and if we can promote that with an agreed-to zoning change that maintains or is within the bounds of what we can do as far as services like water are concerned, then yeah, I think it should be put on the table and considered. But I think Tom's right, it's really, we can't affect any change per se as a planning board.
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, we're asking some questions that might not be particularly up to your offices, but we're certainly trying to advance your collaboration and appreciate your input. And I know that every situation has its own area of expertise, so thank you so much for allowing that. So I'm going to do another question like that. How about the town hall?
Me?
Town building plans. What future plans do you have for exploring a new town hall center, either at a new location or possibly in place of the N01 school? I'm actually going to allow a minute and a half because it's two-pronged, if we can do that. What about a new police fire facility or even a comprehensive Rehoboth Town Center development project? Mr. Brooks, please.
That's a big subject. Again, not necessarily within the purview of the planning board. As a concept, I think that we need to take a serious look at getting out of the current town hall facility. I have not been through the entire police and fire building in the center of town, but my understanding is that that's really outdated and inadequate and getting more so by the minute. So I am certainly in favor of taking a very hard look at all of that. My own opinion is that we sort of blew it by not making that purchase earlier this year or last year. That could have been a pretty good site. I would also say that we have to consider how much is it going to cost, how much state aid, if any, would we qualify for. There are people in this room that are much more capable of speaking to that aid part than I am, but that's my take on it.
I agree with Steve Brooks here. As a planning board, I don't think personally, unless it's a site development, we really wouldn't get into any of that. But again, as a citizen, I would expect a cost analysis to be conducted, and obviously this would have to go up before the town, and depending upon the outcome of the cost analysis, would be voted on by the citizenry. I agree. I go to the town hall every other week or so, sometimes every week. I've never been through the police and the fire department building yet, but again, I understand that's in decent shape, not the best shape. So eventually, we are going to have to replace it at one time or another. We should be considering getting out of the town hall right now. As was brought up in the last town meeting for the previous building purchase that was turned down, it's costing quite a bit of money just to maintain the buildings we have, and that money could be better spent putting payments into the cost of a new town facility or the purchase of a new town facility, rather than making that money. But again, it would all come down to the cost-benefit analysis is if the new building or the new design is preferential, whether it would be worth purchasing or not. But I think we should be looking to it. We either pay now or we pay 5 years, 10 years down the road, and at that time it's going to be much more expensive.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Vadney.
Same question?
No. Switch it up on you.
No such luck.
Police chief, do you think it's reasonable for the town, the police department, to continue being served by an interim chief of police? And whereas interim police chief is a member of the union, do you believe this is a conflict of interest to the town? And do you think it's fair to the interim police chief himself to fulfill this position without properly compensating him? Presume that he's not being properly compensated.
Yes, well, quite frankly, that's what I was going to point out to you. It's presumptuous on your part that his compensation is not adequate. My understanding is that he receives a high-level pay, highest level as lieutenant, and he's paid a stipend for the ability for what he's doing as a police chief. We're in a unique situation in Rehoboth that we have two very talented senior lieutenants. One man is very, 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 very good with all the paperwork that you have to do. The other man is very, very, very good with operations. In other words, the people out in the street. And it is a team that is working so well, I don't see any reason to mess with it. They're happy. The police department seems to be fine the way that it's running. The officers' morale is high. Don't fix what doesn't need fixing. That's my point on that. By the way, the acting chief, I think, is quite happy being an acting chief.
10 seconds left.
And I don't think he has any difficulties with his compensation or his functioning. Did I miss any portion of your question?
Very thorough. And within the time, thank you.
Mr. Vadney, would you be in favor of repealing the 3/4% local meals tax that was instituted by the town of Rehoboth?
I don't know. I haven't taken a look at that. I don't know what kind of funds it generates. I don't know what it costs to administer it. I don't know what the impact of that is on the local businesses. I would certainly take a look at anything that you'd like me to take a look at.
Okay. And following that up with something that might make you want to go to a restaurant, do you think the town should approach the legalization of medical marijuana and the issuance of dispensary licenses? Do you think we should be, as other towns I see are doing, kind of getting ahead of the curve on that before the Mass Department issues its regulations? Should we be thinking about that, as we are a rural town, a right to farm community, and there may be opportunities or there may be things we don't want in town? Have you thought about this?
You mentioned right to farm. You mean as to the production of
Yes.
the product?
Yes.
Well, that's interesting because we are facing those type of questions. I also hold a state position with Massachusetts Farm Bureau, and we are looking at that. We have members that are surprisingly enough are interested in looking at that as an up-and-coming industry, the production of the medical marijuana. As far as the dispensaries within the town, I haven't given it a thought as of yet.
Mm-hmm.
All of my attention has been given towards my involvement with Farm Bureau and how they're looking at this. And we're a long period away from getting rules and regulations written on this. As you know, the Department of Health has to write these rules and regulations, and they've got a humongous problem with their lab. They haven't got time to do anything like that, so we're a long way away.